How these 8 black actors kept their gay affairs secret. Hollywood sells us glamour, truth, and authenticity. But what if some of the biggest names built their careers while hiding parts of their real lives in plain sight? Tonight's story isn't about rumors for clicks. It's about power, perception, and silence, and how fame can protect some secrets while destroying others. From red carpets to award stages, these stories force us to ask uncomfortable questions about identity, image, and who gets to define the truth. Stay with us because this will challenge what you think you know. Subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts below. This is Black Excellence Legends. Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield has never fit neatly into Hollywood's expectations, and that refusal to be boxed in is exactly why his name continues to spark endless conversation. From the moment he broke out in Short-Term 12, critics recognized something rare, an actor willing to expose vulnerability without explanation. As his career expanded with Get Out, Atlanta, Sorry to Bother You, and Judas and the Black Messiah, Stanfield became known not just for talent, but for unpredictability. Part of that fascination comes from how carefully he guards his private life. In an industry where oversharing is currency, Lakeith does the opposite. He avoids labels, sidesteps personal questions, and allows silence to do the talking. His fashion choices, often fluid and unconventional, challenge rigid ideas of masculinity, while his on-screen roles frequently explore identity, isolation, and emotional conflict. For some audiences, that artistic freedom invites curiosity. For others, it fuels speculation. What's important is this: Stanfield has never publicly defined his sexuality, nor has he owed anyone an explanation. Interviews consistently show an artist more interested in emotional truth than public perception. He has spoken about wanting to understand humanity in all its forms, not to provoke rumors, but to portray honest experiences. That mindset explains why his performances feel intimate, regardless of who the character loves. Rather than chasing headlines, Lakeith focuses on craft. His Oscar-nominated performance as Fred Hampton demonstrated discipline and range, while Atlanta proved he could hold tension through restraint alone. In an era obsessed with branding identities, Stanfield represents something increasingly rare: mystery without scandal. Whether audiences project assumptions onto him or not, the facts remain unchanged. Lakeith Stanfield's power lies in his work, not his rumors. And perhaps that refusal to explain himself is the boldest statement of all. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett's story is one of the most complicated and polarizing in modern entertainment because it blends talent, visibility, identity, and controversy into a single public narrative. Long before his name dominated headlines, Smollett was recognized as a gifted performer. His breakout role as Jamal Lyon on Empire made him one of the first openly gay black characters portrayed with emotional depth on a major network drama. For many viewers, that representation mattered deeply. Unlike many celebrities who avoid discussing identity, Smollett openly spoke about being gay, but he resisted being defined solely by labels. He repeatedly stated that his sexuality was not a marketing tool or a storyline, but simply one part of who he was. That insistence on autonomy earned admiration from supporters, while also placing him under intense scrutiny. In 2019, his public image shifted dramatically due to a legal case that became international news. The allegations surrounding a staged hate crime, subsequent charges, and a highly publicized trial transformed Smollett from a symbol of progress into a lightning rod for debate. Regardless of legal outcomes or appeals, the damage to his career was immediate and severe. Projects vanished, industry support evaporated, and public trust fractured. What often gets lost in the noise is how quickly Hollywood turns its back when controversy arises. Smollett's case became less about acting and more about credibility, media narratives, and how public opinion can override nuance. Even supporters who once championed his openness struggled to reconcile representation with accountability. Today, Jussie Smollett exists in a strange space, known by millions, employed by few, and debated by many. His story raises uncomfortable questions about fame, truth, and whether redemption is ever possible once the spotlight turns hostile. Donald Glover. Donald Glover has built a career on refusing simplicity. Actor, writer, director, producer, and musician, he operates in overlapping worlds that rarely allow clean definitions. From Community to Atlanta, from Childish Gambino's music to blockbuster franchises, Glover's work consistently challenges how identity is portrayed, especially for Black men in mainstream culture. That complexity has naturally sparked curiosity about his personal life, including persistent speculation around sexuality. Unlike celebrities who rush to clarify rumors, Glover has deliberately avoided labels. In interviews, he has explained that rigid definitions feel limiting and artificial. For him, attraction, creativity, and self-expression do not fit neatly into predefined categories. This philosophy is reflected in his art. Characters he portrays often exist in emotional gray areas, and his creative choices blur boundaries rather than reinforce them. When he played Lando Calrissian in Star Wars, discussions around the character's pansexuality reignited speculation about Glover himself. Yet he never claimed the role as autobiography, only as an opportunity to expand representation in a major franchise. Despite rumors, the verifiable facts are straightforward. Glover has been in a long-term relationship with Michelle White since 2015, and they share 3 children. He has spoken openly about fatherhood, responsibility, and the importance of privacy in protecting his family from public distortion. What sets Donald Glover apart is not secrecy, but intention. He chooses silence where others overshare, art where others explain, and ambiguity where others demand certainty. In doing so, he forces audiences to confront their own need for labels. His legacy isn't built on answers, but on the freedom to exist without them. Jharrel Jerome. Jharrel Jerome became a household name through performances that demanded emotional honesty, not spectacle. His breakout roles in Moonlight and When They See Us placed him at the center of deeply human stories about identity, vulnerability, and survival. Those performances were so convincing that many viewers blurred the line between character and actor, especially after his portrayal of Kevin in Moonlight, a role that explored intimacy, repression, and longing. That realism sparked public speculation about Jerome's personal life, a common outcome when actors portray marginalized experiences with sincerity. Social media discussions quickly emerged, asking whether the tenderness he displayed on screen reflected his own sexuality. Jerome, however, has been clear when addressing the topic. In interviews, he has stated that he identifies as straight and that portraying a queer character was part of his responsibility as an actor, not a confession. What Jerome emphasized instead was preparation and respect. He spoke openly about initial nervousness before filming Moonlight, not because of fear of labels, but because he wanted to honor the emotional truth of the character without exploitation. His focus remained on storytelling, not self-exposure. The success of the film and its cultural impact proved that audiences respond to authenticity regardless of the actor's personal identity. Despite occasional curiosity about his private life, Jerome has largely kept romantic details out of the spotlight. He chooses to discuss growth, mental health, and artistic discipline rather than headlines. That restraint has helped him avoid the traps that often consume young actors after sudden fame. Jharrel Jerome's journey highlights a larger issue in entertainment. When representation improves, performers are often expected to explain themselves. His career quietly pushes back against that expectation, proving that empathy does not require personal disclosure. Taye Diggs. Taye Diggs has spent decades navigating an industry that both celebrates and scrutinizes Black masculinity. From Broadway stages to romantic leads in film and television, his confidence, expressiveness, and emotional range have earned admiration and speculation. Over the years, some fans and gossip outlets have questioned his sexuality, often based on stereotypes rather than evidence. Those rumors intensified during Diggs's theater years, where expressive performance and close male friendships were incorrectly treated as clues. Yet Diggs has consistently addressed the topic with calm clarity. He has publicly stated that he is straight, never framing the question as offensive, but rather as a reflection of society's discomfort with men who reject rigid masculinity. His marriage to Idina Menzel and their son were well documented, as have been his later relationships with women. Still, Diggs has remained selective about what he shares, choosing privacy over constant explanation. That choice, ironically, has fueled more speculation, illustrating how silence is often misinterpreted as secrecy in celebrity culture. What Diggs has challenged most directly is the idea that sensitivity equals hidden identity. He has spoken about raising his son to embrace emotional openness, arguing that vulnerability should not automatically be coded as weakness or deviation. In doing so, he confronts outdated expectations placed on Black men in the public eye. Rather than chasing rumors, Diggs has focused on longevity, balancing acting, writing, fitness, and fatherhood. His career proves that visibility does not require confession, and that personal truth. Lance Gross. Lance Gross represents a generation of Black actors whose careers have been shaped as much by restraint as by talent. Rising to prominence through Tyler Perry's House of Pain, Gross became a familiar face to millions of households. His portrayal of Calvin Payne balanced humor, responsibility, and emotional intelligence, offering a version of Black manhood that felt grounded rather than exaggerated. As his visibility grew, so did curiosity about his personal life. Gross has long maintained a low public profile off-screen, rarely engaging in celebrity spectacle or tabloid culture. That quiet approach, common among actors who prioritize craft over fame, has occasionally invited speculation. In an industry where oversharing is often mistaken for authenticity, privacy can be misread as secrecy. However, there has never been credible evidence supporting the rumors that occasionally circulate online. Gross has been linked publicly to relationships with women and is now a husband and father, roles he has spoken about with pride when he chooses to speak at all. His decision to keep family life protected reflects intention, not concealment. What makes Gross noteworthy is his consistency. Beyond House of Pain, he has built a solid body of work in projects such as Our Kind of People, MacGyver, and independent films that expand his range without relying on controversy. He has also spoken openly about discipline, faith, and long-term planning, topics rarely amplified in gossip-driven narratives. Lance Gross's story illustrates how easily silence is filled by assumption in Hollywood. His career demonstrates that longevity does not require constant self-disclosure. Sometimes the most powerful statement an actor can make is choosing when and when not to speak. Lorenz Tate. Lorenz Tate has spent decades defying the narrow boxes Hollywood often assigns to Black male actors. From his explosive breakout as O-Dog in Menace to Society to the poetic vulnerability of Love Jones, Tate established early that range, not image, would define his career. That choice reshaped how audiences saw him, and in some cases, sparked curiosity that extended beyond his work. Unlike many peers, Tate deliberately avoided overexposure. He rarely discusses his personal life in interviews, opting instead to center conversations on storytelling, character depth, and cultural responsibility. That discretion has fueled years of speculation, particularly because he does not perform masculinity in predictable ways. Romantic sensitivity, emotional nuance, and artistic restraint are often misread in Hollywood as signals rather than choices. In reality, Tate has been married for years and is a father, facts that are public but not promoted. He has never confirmed or denied rumors because he has consistently refused to validate speculation as something deserving of response. For Tate, privacy is not a defensive act, it is a boundary. His later career, especially his work on power, demonstrates strategic longevity. Playing Councilman Rashad Tate allowed him to explore ambition, morality, and power without sacrificing complexity. Few actors successfully transition from heartthrob to authority figure with credibility, yet Tate managed it without reinventing himself. Lorenz Tate's legacy is not defined by whispers, but by intention. In an industry that rewards exposure, his refusal to perform his private life may be his most radical act. Proof that mystery, when grounded in substance, can still command respect. Donald Faison. Donald Faison's career has been defined by charisma, longevity, and an ability to make audiences feel at ease. Best known for his role as Dr. Christopher Turk on Scrubs, Faison helped anchor one of television's most beloved medical comedies for 9 seasons. His on-screen chemistry with Zach Braff became iconic, showcasing a rare depiction of male friendship that was affectionate, loyal, and emotionally open, qualities not often emphasized in portrayals of Black men on network television at the time. That very openness, however, became the foundation for years of online speculation. Some viewers misinterpreted Faison's playful energy, comedic timing, and close male friendships as something more, a reflection of how rigid expectations around masculinity often distort perception. Despite persistent gossip, there has never been credible evidence to support claims about his sexuality beyond conjecture fueled by stereotypes. In reality, Faison has been open about his life where it matters. He has been married, divorced, remarried, and is a father of 6 children. He has spoken publicly about family, co-parenting, and growth, while remaining intentionally quiet about matters he considers private. That balance, visibility without oversharing, has allowed him to maintain control over his narrative in an industry that frequently profits from intrusion. Beyond Scrubs, Faison's work spans film, Clueless, Remember the Titans, television hosting, voice acting, and directing. He has never relied on controversy to remain relevant. Instead, he built trust with audiences through consistency and authenticity. Donald Faison's story reveals less about hidden truths and more about cultural projection. Sometimes speculation says more about society's discomfort with emotional freedom than it does about the individual being observed. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres occupies a singular place in entertainment history, not because of rumor, but because of visibility. Long before conversations about inclusion became mainstream, DeGeneres made a decision that reshaped television culture. In 1997, she publicly came out as gay, both in real life and through her sitcom, Ellen, a moment that permanently altered the landscape for LGBTQ+ representation in media. The aftermath was not celebratory. The show was canceled, endorsements disappeared, and DeGeneres was effectively pushed out of Hollywood for several years. What followed was not secrecy, but resilience. She rebuilt her career through stand-up, voice acting, most notably as Dory in Finding Nemo, and eventually daytime television. The Ellen DeGeneres Show became one of the most successful talk shows in history, running for 19 seasons and earning more than 60 Daytime Emmy Awards. Her brand centered on kindness, humor, and relatability, making her one of the most recognizable figures in American media. Unlike many public figures, Ellen never framed her sexuality as scandal or mystery. It was simply part of who she was. Later criticism of her workplace culture sparked debate about power, accountability, and public persona, reminding audiences that representation does not exempt anyone from scrutiny. Still, her impact remains undeniable. Ellen DeGeneres normalized visibility at a time when silence was safer. Her story contrasts sharply with those shaped by rumor. Ellen's legacy proves that truth does not weaken influence, Sometimes, it's the very thing that makes progress possible. Taraji P. Henson. Taraji P. Henson's rise in Hollywood has been marked by resilience, range, and an unshakable sense of self. From her Oscar-nominated performance in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button to her scene-stealing dominance as Cookie Lion on Empire, Henson carved a path that few actresses achieve, becoming both critically respected and commercially influential. Despite her fame, Taraji's personal life has often been the subject of public curiosity, particularly because of her outspoken support for LGBTQ+ friends and colleagues. That advocacy, paired with her emotional openness, has occasionally led to misplaced speculation. Yet Henson has always been clear about who she is and what she stands for: compassion, honesty, and freedom of expression, without needing to label herself for public consumption. Her bond with Empire co-star Jussie Smollett became widely discussed after she publicly defended him during the height of his career. Later, when controversy reshaped public perception, Henson chose a nuanced stance, supporting accountability while also emphasizing humanity. That balance reflected her broader worldview: empathy without denial, loyalty without blindness. Beyond acting, Henson has used her platform to confront stigmas around mental health, particularly within the Black community. In 2018, she founded the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, focusing on access to mental wellness resources. This work revealed a deeper dimension of her influence, one rooted not in image, but impact. Taraji P. Henson's story is not about secrecy or speculation. It is about choosing visibility with purpose. In an industry quick to assign narratives, she has consistently written her own, proving that authenticity does not require explanation, only consistency. Lee Daniels. Lee Daniels stands as one of the most influential and unapologetically visible figures in modern entertainment. As an openly gay Black man operating at the highest levels of Hollywood, Daniels did not quietly enter the industry. He challenged it head-on. From producing Monsters Ball to creating Empire and directing Precious, his work consistently pushed boundaries around race, sexuality, trauma, and power. Daniels has never hidden his identity, nor has he allowed it to be separated from his creative vision. His storytelling often centers marginalized voices, particularly Black LGBTQ+ characters rarely afforded complexity in mainstream media. Empire's Jamal Lyon was not written as a side note or stereotype, but as a fully realized artist navigating family, fame, and self-acceptance. That visibility, however, came at a cost. Daniels has spoken openly about discrimination, industry resistance, and the pressure of being both Black and gay in spaces that tolerate diversity more than they embrace it. Rather than soften his approach, he leaned into it, making discomfort part of the conversation. His mentorship of actors like Jussie Smollett was rooted in shared experience, offering guidance in an industry that often isolates those who do not conform. When controversy later surrounded Smollett, Daniels publicly expressed pain and disappointment, acknowledging complexity rather than retreating into silence. Lee Daniels' legacy is not defined by gossip, but by courage. He represents what happens when visibility is intentional and power is reclaimed. In a business built on illusion, Daniels chose truth and forced Hollywood to respond. Idina Menzel. Idina Menzel's career has been defined by powerhouse talent, cultural impact, and a public image that often transcends simple labels. Rising to prominence on Broadway with Rent and later achieving global fame as Elphaba in Wicked, Menzel became a defining voice of modern musical theater. Her reach expanded even further when she voiced Elsa in Disney's Frozen, delivering the anthem, Let It Go, which earned over 3 billion streams worldwide and an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Alongside her success, Menzel has long been embraced by LGBTQ+ audiences, largely due to her advocacy, inclusivity, and the emotional resonance of her work. That connection, however, has also led to persistent speculation about her personal life. Menzel has never framed her identity around public assumptions. Instead, she has consistently emphasized that her private life is not a performance and does not require clarification to validate her artistry. Married previously to actor Taye Diggs, with whom she shares a son, Menzel later remarried artist Aaron Lohr. Throughout these chapters, she remained focused on career growth rather than public narrative. She has often spoken about how labels, whether about identity, success, or femininity, can distract from the real work artists are trying to do. Beyond entertainment, Menzel has used her platform to advocate for acceptance, education, and mental health awareness, particularly for young people who feel unseen. Her concerts frequently emphasize unity and emotional honesty rather than spectacle alone. Idina Menzel's story is not about secrecy, it is about boundaries. In an industry that demands constant access, she chose dignity, letting her voice speak louder than speculation. Ashton Sanders. Ashton Sanders emerged as one of the most compelling young actors of his generation, following his breakout performance in Moonlight, a film that reshaped conversations around Black masculinity, vulnerability, and identity. Playing the teenage version of Sharon, Sanders delivered a restrained yet deeply emotional performance that contributed to the film's Academy Award for Best Picture in 2017. Because Moonlight centered on a gay Black protagonist, Sanders quickly became the subject of online speculation about his own sexuality. Much of that curiosity stemmed from a broader cultural tendency to blur the line between actor and role, particularly when the performance feels authentic. Sanders, however, has been clear in interviews that acting is about empathy, not autobiography. He has explained that portraying Sharon required emotional honesty, not personal disclosure. Rather than engage with rumors, Sanders chose to redirect attention to his craft. His follow-up roles in Wu-Tang, An American Saga, and Native Son demonstrated range, discipline, and a commitment to complex storytelling. He has spoken thoughtfully about how Moonlight taught him the importance of listening to communities, experiences, and emotions different from his own. Sanders also highlighted how Black male actors often face hyper-scrutiny when they step outside traditional stereotypes. Playing sensitivity on screen can invite speculation, but he views that discomfort as evidence of progress rather than something to retreat from. Ashton Sanders' career reflects a generational shift, one where masculinity is expansive, vulnerability is respected, and identity does not need to be explained to be valid. His silence on personal matters is not avoidance, it is intention. Michelle White. Michelle White is one of the most private figures connected to modern celebrity culture, despite being the longtime partner of Donald Glover. Unlike many individuals linked to high-profile artists, White has deliberately remained outside the spotlight, choosing discretion over visibility. That choice has shaped how she is perceived and often misunderstood by the public. White and Glover have been together since at least 2015 and share 3 sons, born in 2016, 2018, and 2020. Glover has spoken openly about fatherhood, crediting White as a grounding force in his life and a source of emotional stability during periods of intense creative pressure. Beyond those rare acknowledgments, very little verified information about White's personal or professional life has been made public. Her absence from social media and red carpets has fueled online curiosity, particularly in a culture where celebrity partners are often expected to perform visibility. However, there is no evidence that White has sought fame, branding opportunities, or media attention. Instead, her near-total privacy reflects a conscious boundary, one that contrasts sharply with Hollywood norms. In discussions about identity, labeling, and public narrative, White's role is often overlooked. Yet her presence challenges the assumption that proximity to fame requires participation in it. She represents an alternative model: partnership without performance, influence without exposure. Michelle White's story is not about secrecy, It is about choice. In an industry that thrives on access, her refusal to become a public figure is itself a statement. It underscores a larger truth. Not every life connected to celebrity is meant for consumption, and privacy can be a form of power. Rami Malek. Rami Malek's career is defined by transformation, precision, and an ability to disappear into characters that linger long after the screen fades. Born to Egyptian immigrant parents, Malek's early career included supporting roles in The Pacific and Night at the Museum, but his breakthrough came with the television series Mr. Robot. His portrayal of Elliot Alderson earned him an Emmy Award, marking him as one of the most compelling actors of his generation. Malek's global recognition reached new heights with Bohemian Rhapsody, where he portrayed Freddie Mercury. The role earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor, along with a Golden Globe and BAFTA. Because Mercury was openly queer, Malek's performance reignited conversations about sexuality, identity, and whether actors must share traits with the characters they portray. Malek addressed this directly in interviews, emphasizing that acting is rooted in empathy, research, and respect, not personal disclosure. He spoke about honoring Mercury's complexity rather than imitating his private life, reinforcing the idea that great performances do not require autobiographical overlap. Despite intense media interest, Malek has consistently guarded his personal life. He has been publicly linked to actress Lucy Boynton, but beyond confirmed relationships, he avoids commentary on speculation. That restraint has sometimes been misinterpreted as ambiguity, yet Malek has remained clear that his work, not his private identity, is what he chooses to present. Rami Malek's journey reflects a broader shift in Hollywood, one where representation is expanding, but the line between role and reality still demands respect. His success demonstrates that portraying marginalized experiences can deepen culture, without requiring actors to surrender their own boundaries. Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay is one of the most influential filmmakers of the 21st century, not only because of her work on screen, but because of how she has reshaped power behind the camera. Before directing major films, DuVernay built her career in public relations, founding her own agency that handled campaigns for studios and independent films. That experience gave her rare insight into how Hollywood narratives are constructed and who is often excluded from them. Her breakout as a director came with Middle of Nowhere, 2012, which earned her the Best Director Award at the Sundance Film Festival, making her the first Black woman to receive that honor. The film's quiet, intimate storytelling signaled a shift away from stereotypes, focusing instead on emotional realism and moral complexity. DuVernay's historical impact expanded with Selma, 2014, which chronicled the 1965 voting rights marches led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The film earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture and won for Best Original Song. More importantly, it reframed civil rights history through a lens that centered Black agency rather than simplified hero worship. Her documentary, 13th, 2016, became a cultural landmark, examining mass incarceration and systemic racism in the United States. It was nominated for an Oscar and widely used in academic and activist spaces, proving that documentaries could shape national conversation. Beyond directing, DuVernay founded Array, a distribution collective dedicated to amplifying work by women and filmmakers of color. She has also worked extensively in television, creating Queen Sugar and When They See Us, both praised for authenticity and social impact. Ava DuVernay's legacy is not just what she creates, but what she makes possible. She didn't just enter Hollywood, she rewrote the rules for who gets to tell the story. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is one of the most recognizable figures in global entertainment, a rare artist whose influence spans music, film, television, business, and popular culture. Emerging from Long Beach, California, he first gained attention through his collaborations with Dr. Dre, particularly on The Chronic, 1992. His debut album Doggy Style, 1993, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 800,000 copies in its first week, a record at the time. While Snoop became synonymous with West Coast gangster rap, his career has been marked by reinvention rather than confinement. Across more than 3 decades, he has released over 20 studio albums, collaborated with artists across genres, and remained commercially relevant in an industry that often discards longevity. Beyond music, Snoop Dogg built a second career in media and entrepreneurship. He has appeared in dozens of films and television shows, hosted programs, and become a cultural personality known equally for humor and insight. His business ventures include cannabis brands, media platforms, and strategic investments, including early involvement in tech startups. Snoop's public image has evolved dramatically. Once positioned as a symbol of controversy in the 1990s, he later became a mainstream cultural figure, appearing in family-friendly commercials, sports broadcasting, and even children's programming. This shift reflects not a contradiction, but adaptability, an understanding of audience, timing, and branding. Despite fame, Snoop Dogg has consistently spoken about personal growth, spirituality, and community ties. He has credited mentorship, maturity, and responsibility as key factors in his longevity. Snoop Dogg's story is not just about survival and entertainment, it is about transformation. Few artists have navigated cultural change so fluidly while remaining unmistakably themselves. He understood globalization before it became a buzzword, expanding Elite into a worldwide network with offices across Europe, Asia. He spent his later years largely outside the spotlight.